All right. Apologies for the late start on this. It's a long story that you really don't care about. I mean, if you really want to hear the story, you can be a super chatter, and I will. If you're a super chatter and super chat to say, hey, what happened? Why were you running so late? Then I will tell the story. It's not a good story. It's not an interesting story. It's just it's just a story. But nobody cares. We were trying to make it by 8:30, but we ended up not making it by 8:30, and so it's 8:40, whatever it is now, 8:53. I was hoping to then make it by 8:45. What do you make it by 8:45 due to further complications? But we are here now. It's the Wednesday night live Panther-Lair Show. Swim Boyd at 8:47 said, I imagine Jim is just sitting there waiting for Chris to join him into the call, which is probably the case. I imagine that Jim probably was sitting there waiting for this. And so I sent him, I just sent him the link. Hopefully he'll join us here shortly. I told him it might not be until 9 o'clock, so maybe he won't join for a few minutes. But either way, Pitt Tough Guy is a super chatter, but that was a while ago. He was a super chatter, or they were a super chatter 40 minutes ago. So that doesn't count as trying to get the story on why we were late. So that doesn't count. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a live Panther-Lair Show. Listen, make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss any of our Pitt video content. I mean, I'm getting like text messages about all this nonsense. Like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you won't miss any of our Pitt video content, our daily morning Pitt videos Monday through Friday, our weekly live show that we're doing right here. We usually do it every Wednesday night at 8:30. Sometimes there are distractions and delays. Sometimes things cause confusion and delay, as Sir Topham Hatt might say. And certainly tonight was one of those, but we are here. We are settled in. And the good thing about subscribing to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com is you can turn on notifications. So if we, get delayed, if something weird happens, you can get an alert sent right to your phone that says, hey, Panther-Lair is live now. Although you might have gotten that alert at 8:30, in which case it wasn't very useful. But I did my best to try to communicate that we were running behind. And, but here we are now. Jim's here, so I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to remember to actually plug in to the thing I need to plug into in order to hear Jim instead of just hearing myself. There he is. Jim, I apologize for keeping you waiting. Somebody said, let me find the post. Swim Boyd said, I imagine Jim is just sitting there waiting for Chris to join him into the call. Is that what you were doing? Were you just sitting there wondering when the heck I was going to get into action here?
So this is actually like a good plug for everything you were just saying. I have the Panther-Lair.com YouTube notifications. I saw we were going live 3 minutes ago, so I was like,
oh really?
Yeah, I better get to my computer. Chris is starting to talk. I guess. So
no kidding.
Yeah, so they really work. Like it's a real thing. So
that works. Okay. Because what I was curious about is like I had created the stream, we use StreamYard to stream these things, and I created it and set it as a scheduled start time at 8:30. So I wondered if YouTube would just send the notification at 8:30 and that would be misleading, but it actually tells you. Okay, so this is a great plug, like you were just saying, Jim, for anyone who's not subscribed and doesn't have notifications turned on. Like a night like tonight where things get all screwed up and I'm running behind and I'm not sure what time, and I'm like, oh, we're going to start at this time. Actually, it's a different time. You don't have to worry about it because your phone will just tell you, hey, Chris is finally talking now. So everybody should, do that. Click that subscribe button. I think it's down. It's over on Jim's side of the screen. It's over in the lower right-hand corner of the screen if you're looking at it. And, I'm seeing people jump into the live stream now. So I think they might have gotten the notifications and tuned in. Okay, great. So, hey, that worked out really well. I was like texting you, Jim, like, oh, I'm going to be late and this and that. I didn't have to text you at all. Could have just let the notifications do the talking. We'll do that from now on. I'm not going to bother you. Well, I'll send you the link to jump into the call.
Yeah,
you need that.
That'll be helpful, yeah.
Anyway, so it's almost 9 o'clock, and we have a lot to talk about this week, Jim, because things have happened. I guess we start with Jaylen Lowe yesterday. I mean, I don't think Lowe has announced anything yet, has he? Have you seen on his Instagram or anything like that?
At like new destination?
No, just that announced that he's going into the portal. Like himself announcing it.
Yeah, you're right. He hasn't done the, thank you Pittsburgh for these last 2 years, blah blah blah. He has not
Yeah, the
done that post
graphic.
yet. Yeah,
Right. I mean, I think even like Guillermo and Amsal and those guys
yeah,
took a day or two before they did it. Who is this? Oh, that John Lamoth guy. Remember that guy? Jonathan Lamoth?
yeah. He's like a guard from DMV.
Yeah. He I guess I still follow him on Instagram and he committed to UNC Wilmington. So he's
Huh.
a Seahawk now. So I was just gonna look real quick to see if there was anything from Jaylen, but I don't see anything. So not gonna bother about that. So he hasn't officially announced, but I mean, it's been reported and certainly not disputed or denied that he's going into the transfer portal. I think we can assume that that's the case. Level of surprise 1 to 10, 1 being the least surprise, 10 being the most, like 1 being a Christian Veyer level of surprise, or a Nate Yarnell level of surprise, 10 being a Jordan Addison level of surprise. What? Quick sidetrack. What would be the 10 level of most surprise transfer you can think of over the last 5 years?
I mean,
Was it Addison just because he was like the first one, like the first big surprise one?
I think so. I think that just kind of it was like a Sunday afternoon, and like it just like Twitter
No, it was
just
a
blew up.
Friday. It was a
Oh
Friday night.
yeah,
I was sitting in the airport. I was flying to Newark, and I was my flight was delayed, and I was sitting in the airport when that happened. What was a bigger surprise, Jordan Addison or Dayon Hayes going the way he went after he had like re-signed in December, re-signed like twice in December, and then he still goes into the portal?
I still think Addison just because like just how good he was. Like he was like a superstar at Pitt. Like like he was like a marquee featured player. But yeah, I guess last year like Hayes and DeShields leaving after spring ball was a little bit of a surprise, especially because they put out the graphic on Instagram. So
Right.
that's not binding as much as it seems
it's
like it is. It's
not
not.
legally binding graphic on Instagram. I always say that I think Jordan Addison was like that first one that for me like opened my eyes. Like holy cow, anybody can go. And I
Yeah,
don't think it was just localized to Pitt and Pittsburgh. I think nationally that was one of the biggest like eye openers. Maybe Caleb Williams, because was that the year before when Caleb Williams transferred? But he even followed Lincoln Riley, so it wasn't a huge surprise.
right.
I think Jordan Addison coming off a Biletnikoff award-winning season, he was a sophomore. He was, I think everybody in the country was like, okay, this can happen to anyone. Not like Pitt is some great blue blood institution that is unpoachable, but like, oh wow, this can happen anywhere with anybody. No one's safe, nothing's protected. Anybody can go. I think Addison was the one that sort of was the dam breaking. You know what I mean? I really think it was like as far as everyone's awareness that like, okay, this is the world we're in now. So let's say a Jordan Addison. Well, first of all, do you agree with that? Would you say Addison was like one of the biggest ones nationally?
Yeah, it had to have been just because I think like for a long time the transfer portal was just thought of as like, oh, like this guy's looking to go find a better fit. It's like you don't expect some guys all American just to leave after like, winning the Biletnikoff. That's never happened before. So yeah, I mean I think yeah, Pitt kind of got the ball rolling with this whole new era of sports. I mean, of fittingly enough, but yeah. So yeah, that was the one.
All right. So we'll go Nate Yarnell being a 1 on the least surprising transfer entries, and Jordan Addison being a 10 on the most surprising. Where does Jaylen Lowe rank on that scale, 1 to 10?
I'd say probably about 2 or 3. I wasn't
Really?
really taken aback by it. I think last week we were talking, and I think I put the chances over 50% of him
Oh
leaving.
yeah,
So
that's true.
it just kind of felt like things were trending in that direction. And even our guy Matt Steinbrink, he posted something like, "Well, Pitt will be able to match." So whenever he posted that last week, I was like, "Well, what are they matching?" So that means he's already taking offers or fielding those discussions. So like
Right.
I think at that point, the writing was on the wall. It was we were just kind of waiting for it to break, and of course Tuesday morning rolls around and. I don't even know who had it. I think some guy from the Athletic. I don't know like
Yeah.
how sometimes these guys get these stories, but I don't know. It's a new era for everyone. But
Yeah, and it popped out in like 3 different places all within like 90 seconds. So it was
yep,
like a group text from an agent or something like that. And you see it now. I mean, agents are getting credited with everything here, which as we talk about everything moving toward more of a pro system, like that's the pro way. Like Adam Schefter, not to some extent, but like Ian Rappaport or, all the NBA guys, it's all through agents, like it's all through agents as opposed to like college stuff. I mean, you got to rely on networks of coaches as far as sources, I'm saying, and reporting these kinds of things, networks of coaches and administrators and whatnot. In the pros, it's all agents. And I think that's where everything comes from and everything goes through. And that's what it's becoming in college sports now. So whoever, Jaylen Lowe's agent is clearly put out a text blast. And so like 4 guys had it, 5 guys had it all within the span of like 2 minutes. If you were to hazard a guess, Jim, as to the biggest factors that went into this, and I think there's a few that it could be, like, let's say, I think everybody's sort of assuming Miami's going to be a likely destination due to the family connection with Jai Lucas, the head coach down there. There's that connection to Jai Lucas. There's just the potential to get more money. And then there's sort of the way this season went, which I can't imagine he feels very good about his own individual performance or how the team went overall. I can't think that this season was a good experience for him. If you were to hazard a guess, and this is us just guessing on his motivations, what do you think pushed him to this move?
I would say just a combination of everything. I mean, I think if you look at it from his perspective, like he was getting a lot of NBA draft love over the summer, and like he failed to live up those expectations almost entirely. I mean, he was not the player that everyone thought he was going to be. So I think, that plays into a factor. Just the roster, everything's uncertain for next year. Probably he can get more money elsewhere. So, I mean, I think it's just, you kind of couple all those things together. And it was interesting because, after the ACC tournament, he was just very emotional and he spoke highly of Capel. And I think there's, a real family connection there. And it's just like, that stuff just it just doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it's like, where can I get the best opportunity? Where's the most money? And, where's the best chance for me to succeed? And obviously he looked at all 3 of those factors and decided Pitt wasn't there, just wasn't the answer.
What do you think could have made a difference for him this year? Better surrounding cast, different coaching, different style of like system they were Pitt played in. I guess that's like a multifaceted question, because part of it is asking, what do you think was the biggest issue for Jaylen Lowe this season? But then it's also like kind of like what could have alleviated that. Was he just being asked to do something he's not cut out to do?
I mean, I just look at, I think part of it's like roster construction. I mean, like he's so good at getting into the teeth of the defense, and like you want shooters for him to kick out to. And it's like, they didn't really have that. I mean, like, Ish Leggett, he likes to drive too. I mean, you have Cam Core and he's already in the paint. So it's like, they were just congested. There was just not a lot of flow to the offense. And I think a lot of it just fell onto him. And then, whenever things started to go bad, like he recognized like, okay, I'm the best player, so I need to fix it myself. And, sometimes trying to, win 1-on-5 isn't the best solution. I mean, I get it from his point of view. I think it all came from a really good place. Like I'm trying to help my team win. But, because of that, I just don't think it maximized his abilities. So I think having a better supporting cast, I mean, I think, just having those other offensive threats last year, like if he broke down his defender, like, okay, Blake's out there, Bub's over here on this side. Like they had those kind of options. And like this year's team, they didn't really have that. I mean, Zach Austin led the team and, made 3-pointers with what, like 48, 50, something like that. So, yeah. I mean, it's like they just didn't have that sharp shooting team. And I think he's the kind of guard that benefits from just being surrounded by shooters.
And there were other weapons on that team. Like he had Bub, he had Ish, and he had Blake. This year he had Ish, and that was it. Like you said, I mean, Zach Austin, and I think we said this many times throughout the season, he's not going to be the focal point of your offense. You're not going to run plays for him. He's going to get his points in the way that he gets his points, is sort of uniquely Zach Austin way of doing it. But that's not a replacement for Bub Carrington. That's not a replacement for Blake Hinson. And maybe when Damian Dunn was there, it might have been a little bit better, but I think Dunn was, marginally effective as an offensive player. So, I mean, you just didn't have those players around him. And that, I think that hurt. And I think you're right. I think he took a lot onto himself, and I think he became remarkably inefficient as a result. Like if you could put him in a situation where he only needs to score 9 to 11 points per game, and that's all he's really needed from him, kind of like it was his freshman year, I think he could be a pretty exceptional player. But it seems pretty clearly he's not the guy that Pitt needed him to be, and he's not the guy that the rest of the cast sort of demanded that he be or necessitated. So I'm with you. I think his heart was in the right place. I think his motivation was good, but he just, it just didn't happen. It was disappointing too. I guess if he ends up in a place that has better 3-point shooting, is that the key? Like, does that make Jaylen Lowe, like if he goes to Miami or he goes to Texas and they surround him with good shooters? I mean, does that all of a sudden make him into the efficient player he was 2 years ago?
I mean, maybe. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I still have the belief that he's a good player, and I still think even within this season, he had good moments, he had good stretches. It's just I think his usage just went way up, maybe too much, to a point where it hurt him and it hurt his numbers. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's a good player. I think if you put him in the right situation, more offense around him, I think he can be good. I mean, he was good 2 years ago. He had good moments this year. It just, whenever the losing started, I think everything just kind of like snowballed for the team and him, and it just they just never got out of it.
Yeah. Joey Dealey says, is there a chance that Jaylen Lowe will come back? George Mikulowski from Pittsburgh Sports Now said that he's keeping Pitt as a high option. I mean, like, yeah, it's he could technically, by the letter of the law, he could come back. The transfer portal is not a one-way door. You can come back out of the portal, but I would put the chances at less than 1%. I mean, like, there's always a possibility that anything can happen. Pitt could beat West Virginia in 2007 or Clemson in 2016, but like, I would say it's pretty highly unlikely outcome for him to come back. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you see this in, just in recent years, like, a transfer will put out a top 5 and also include and a chance to return to, wherever I left from. And like, I can't remember a time wherever that actually worked out, like where someone was like, you know what? I saw all these great offers. Like everyone was like telling me I'm the greatest, but I'm going to go back to the school that I had a little bit of problem with in the first place. Like it usually doesn't work out that way. So like, I'm kind of looking at this as more of a finality thing. Like it's done. Like Jaylen Lowe's not going to be at Pitt next year. I mean, I'm sure, like I said earlier, I mean, like there are real connections there. I mean, I think he enjoyed his time in Pittsburgh. I think he likes the program. I think he likes Jeff Capel. But so like, yeah, I think he's going to say the right things. Like, oh yeah, like I'll keep him in consideration. But I can't see it being a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was Brandon George and Nate Temple, right? Like those guys came back, but can't really think of any other times that's happened. Not with Pitt. I think you've seen it around the country, but it seems highly unlikely. Joey also asked, is there any guys we are going after in the portal as of now besides that Iowa State kid? First of all, Jim, can you pronounce the name of the kid from Iowa State who visited Pitt today?
I was kind of hoping you got to it before I did.
Oh, there was no chance I was ever going to try to say it. I thought maybe you had looked up Iowa State's pronunciation guide or something.
No, I didn't. So this is like, I guess this is kind of bad radio here, but so the Iowa State transfers here.
Yes. And
Nojus Indrasitis? I don't know.
Let's see if I can do this here. Hold on a second. I'm going to there is a pronunciation guide, one of these like speaking things where they say it. So I'm going to try and put the microphone up against my computer and we'll see if we can hear it here. Let's see. Whoops. Wait. Oh, come on. It's supposed to be playing. Oh, I didn't have the volume up. Hold on.
Wow, okay.
There we go. Noyus indrusitis. That's not that hard. I never would have gotten Noyus out of that. It would have been Nojus, But Noyus indrusitis. So, what have you learned about Noyus indrusitis aside from learning how to pronounce his name just now?
He's from Chicago. So who's texting? Oh, okay.
We got somebody who texted. Okay, like we're not going to say who just texted us, but somebody just texted us both a group text of how to pronounce Noyus indrusitis. That's great.
Yeah, that's helpful.
That's very helpful. You know what's more helpful is athletic department websites that have a pronunciation like we just did, which our stream is a few minutes behind. People watching it are a few minutes behind. So that person who just texted us might not know that we found our answer on the very helpful, very useful, very user-friendly Iowa State men's basketball website. But anyway, what have you learned about Noyes Indrusitis, aside from how to pronounce his name?
So he's from Chicago.
As most people named Noyes Indrusitis are. Yeah, totally makes sense.
But he plays. He has dual citizenship, so he played in the Euro U18 team for what country was that? Lithuania.
Lithuania. Oh, okay.
Donatas Sabauskas.
Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead bought the Lithuanian Olympic basketball team their jerseys back in 92 or something like that. 88. I forget.
Okay. So from Chicago, 4-star recruit, played his senior year at Brewster, one of the New England prep schools, one of those. Played for the Lithuania under 18 team in the Euro basket last year, averaged 20 points, top 100 recruit, went to Iowa State this year, kind of played early in the season and kind of lost his role a little bit over time, but Iowa State was a top 20 team. I looked, they had 3, senior guards, all average double figures. So he was kind of crunched out of playing time, but I don't know. I mean, from Pitt's point of view, I kind of posted this on the message board. If you have so many roster spots to fill, you want impact guys, you want, those guys that average 10 to 15 points at their prior school, but you have room for lottery tickets. You have room to, okay, this guy has 3 years of eligibility. He was a top 100 recruit. He's putting up big numbers in a huge European event last year. That seems like a good guy to put take a chance on. So that's the one guy we know took an official visit or a visit. I think there might have been more. We're trying to dig up names, and I don't know. I think we have a running list on Panther-Lair. They've been in contact with about 20 guys. So that's what we know. Some of this stuff happens in the dark. There's probably names that we don't know that Pitt is talking to. So we're trying to uncover all of that. It's a process because, like we said earlier, everything goes through agents now, and agents don't always want to talk to me and Chris.
No, they definitely don't. I do think sometimes we fall into this trap of this is the first visit we've confirmed. This guy, wow, is this guy the priority? Well, not necessarily. It doesn't always follow that order of priority. There may be priority guys that they won't get on campus for a visit until after the dead period. The dead period starts tomorrow, starts Thursday. It runs Thursday to Thursday, 3rd through the 10th. It's like a Final Four dead period, right? And there might be guys that are top priorities who they just won't be able to get on campus for a visit until after that dead period, that recruiting dead period ends. And it's not necessarily reflective of, how you prioritize guys. If you get this guy on campus first or that guy on campus first, it might just be how the schedule works out or when their availability works out or your availability works out. As a piece to add, again, like you said, Jim, they have 4 scholarship guys coming back. That means they can add as many as 11, right? Is that what the roster limit is going up to? 15?
Yeah, you can go
with the potential 15. To all be scholarship. I mean, I don't think they're going to give 15 scholarships. I don't think they should. But even if this guy, he might not be one of your top 5, but maybe he's 6 through 10, or maybe he is. Maybe he ends up being one of your best guys, but I don't necessarily think that this is just because he's the one that we've confirmed taking a visit. I don't know if that necessarily means he's the number 1 priority on the board. Now you sent a clip, and I didn't get a chance to watch it too closely. You sent a clip you found to our Panther-Lair group text, and you thought it looked promising. What did you see there?
It was with the Lithuania team last year in the playing in the Euro basket, whatever it was. And I don't know. I mean, he was taking guys off the dribble. Looks like a pretty good, competent shooter. 6'5", not overly athletic, but has a good floor game. Kind of can control his pace. So I don't know. I mean, it looks promising. He had a bunch of offers. 1 year ago at this time, he picked Iowa State over Illinois, a bunch of Big Ten, some Big East schools. So everything on paper, it seems promising. So it's just a matter of sometimes guys just need a new opportunity, new change of scenery, whatever it may be. And so, I mean, if you're Pitt, you kind of almost have to count on it, hitting on a couple of those, finding those deep flyers like a Blake Hinson and just seeing if it sticks. So I get it. Yeah. I mean, like I said, last year, they were pretty direct with like who they were kind of going after. Like it was kind of like, all right, like they kind of zeroed in on Dunn and Corn, but they were filling pieces last year. Like this year, they're building rosters, so it's kind of different, like you said. So just because he's the one guy we know that visited doesn't mean like he's one of the many options they're going after because they have so many roster spots to account for.
Yeah, I think the year they built the tournament team, that was another roster rebuild, right? They brought in the 3 transfers with Blake Hinson and Greg Elliott and Nelly Cummings, and they added 3 freshmen, right, in Federico and the Twins. So it's 6 guys. I mean, that's effectively a roster rebuild out of a roster of like 13. Was there anybody else who came in that year? I don't think there was. I think it was just those guys. There wasn't any other. I mean, like, but those were the main ones, even, So, I mean, that was like a roster rebuild, and they were basically adding those guys to like Jamarius Burton and Nike Sabandi. I mean, that was effectively like all they had. Like, unless I'm forgetting somebody, I mean, that was effectively all they had left.
They thought they had Hughley at that point. Like they were.
That's true, and Will Jeffress, I guess, too, right? Will Jeffress,
yeah.
Or that was that the year he got hurt?
It might have
but been. I mean, but he wouldn't have been hurt when they were trying to build the roster. So that's 4 guys. So they had Jamarius Burton, Nike Sabandi, John Hughley, and Will Jeffress. Effectively, I mean, no disrespect to Nate Santos, but I mean, they effectively had like 4 or 5 scholarship guys, kind of in the same situation they're in now. The difference here is that they only have 1 high school kid coming in, and they'll fill out the rest of it with transfer guys. But I don't know. Maybe this will. Maybe Noyes will be one of the guys. Scroll through some more comments. Voodoo IPA at 831 said drinking a beer, working on taxes, and streaming Panther-Lair. What a night. Sorry you had to wait almost 20 minutes to actually get Panther-Lair started, but hopefully you got your taxes done. Swim Boy thought that I was digging out the Dino Cat gear for the stream. I don't know if I have any Dino Cat gear. Do you have anything, Jim?
I'm sure I could dig around in some drawers and find some stuff.
We should have it close. Like, it should always be in reach, Like,
I'll just like redecorate this room.
I thought I had my Compass Bowl mini helmet, but I can't find it. I mean, that's not Dino Cat, but it evokes the Dino Cat. I think. Well, they weren't using Dino Cat in 2010. They were using Block Pitt at that point. So, but either way, it's got the same kind of vibe, I think. John Krasovich says NIL and the transfer portal have destroyed college sports. I don't know, destroyed is a bit dramatic, but they've certainly changed irrevocably. You know what I've been thinking about a lot, Jim, and actually tomorrow's morning Pitt is about this. It's the whole idea of a GM in college sports, and I think it's really interesting because, like, when I think about up until the past few days, when I've thought about the role of a GM in college sports, I've thought about, it's somebody who can come in and help kind of manage the budget and work in concert with the coaches to sort of help develop the roster and stuff. But then, you know what caught my eye was Stanford hiring Frank Reich. And this caught my eye because the more I started reading about it, it wasn't Stanford athletic director hires Frank Reich. It wasn't Stanford's president hires Frank Reich. It was Andrew Luck hires Frank Reich. And I was like, damn, that's what a GM is going to do. Like, it's going to be more of like a pro model. It's not going to be some college adaptation of it. It's going to be a pro model where the GM hires and fires the coach, where the GM builds the roster. Because this also, man, I'm giving up everything that I say on tomorrow's morning Pitt, but oh well. I Facebook like reels, like little clips that they show on you fall into these rabbit holes. I fall into these rabbit holes on Facebook all the time. I watch like 90-second clips of like The Sopranos and Breaking Bad and all this kind of stuff. Well, for some reason, it started showing me clips of Moneyball the other day, and a good movie. You've seen Moneyball, right? Yeah. And so they're showing this one clip between Brad Pitt, who's Billy Beane, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's Art Howe. And Billy Beane is basically like, look, I built you this team and you're not using it the way it was built, like the way it was intended to be used. And it's an interesting conversation between Art Howe and Billy Beane, but like, that's what like we're looking at with college sports with these GM roles. It's not just here, we'll help you manage the NIL budget and put out feelers and do some of that work to help you get the guys you want. It's we will build the team, you go out and coach it, which like, good luck getting some of these veteran college coaches to get on board with that. Like, how's Pat Narduzzi going to handle that when a guy walks into his office and says, here's your roster for this year, coach, go get them? Or a guy walks into the office and is like, hey, I'm your new boss. Like, how's Pat Narduzzi going to handle that? Or even like Jeff Capel. I mean, he's younger than Narduzzi, but he's been coaching a long time. And he's been around, spent a lot of his time, his formative years at a program where the head coach is like the god of the campus. And now you're going to bring in a GM so that the head coach doesn't report directly to the athletic director. He reports to the GM. And then what if eventually you get to a point where you just have these GMs and the athletic director role gets minimized and they're pretty much overseeing all these like basically club sports which is outside of like football, men's basketball, and each school will have one or two other sports that they actually really go in on. But each of those sports will have a GM, and the athletic director is marginalized to a certain extent because the GM operates the programs. Like, I don't feel like any of this is far-fetched. If Andrew Luck is firing Troy Taylor and hiring Frank Reich, like, this is where we're at now. This is the pro model as far as like the org chart, right? Do people say org chart or organizational chart?
I don't know.
I feel like I've seen it written as org chart, but like that's the org chart now in college sports, right? And it doesn't seem far-fetched, does it?
No, not at all. And yeah, it was eye-opening just to see that like all the decisions this week, it was like per general manager Andrew Luck. So like, does he like, is Stanford football like it has autonomy? Like it's its own thing. Like it doesn't have to report to the athletic department. That's interesting, but like I think it's going to go that direction for a lot of other teams. Like he's the one that's calling the shots now. It's not the AD, so it's an interesting turn. But I mean, I think more and more teams are going to go that way. But like you said, I mean, so many of these programs are built on the ego and the reputation and the power and the clout of the head coach. So I can't imagine like Dabo Swinney like taking orders from someone. Like it's his like he's basically the mayor of Clemson, South Carolina. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I think it's going to head in that direction if it hasn't already. I mean, if Stanford's doing it, other teams are doing it, and more teams are going to start doing it.
And like this, there was something I was just looking at on ESPN.com today, and it was about Luck and the process of firing Troy Taylor, and like some of his quotes were things like, I was still feeling good about the direction of our program and the future of our program, even up to a week ago, and then we had to do this, and I mean, very much like you said, speaking from a position of authority. And so I'm trying to think of like examples around the country of like, wow, I wonder how that coach is going to take it. But I mean, even like probably somebody like James Franklin, like it'll be like eventually when a GM is hired to run Penn State football, it'll be presented as like, yes, we're working together, we're going to be a team, but there'll be conflicts because if you are a coach who's been a coach for decades, like some of these guys, and been a head coach for at least 10 years, like Narduzzi or Franklin or, Steve Sarkisian or whoever, you have always reported directly to the athletic director. And in some cases, like for Pat Narduzzi, I think directly to the chancellor. And now you're going to have this new extra layer of boss above you. Like that's going to be a really difficult transition period. And I don't know how it's going to go, but so to John's point, this all started because John said the NIL and the transfer portal have destroyed college sports. Like, I won't go so far as to say destroyed. Probably a few years from now, I'll be like, yep, you guys were right. It did. It destroyed it. But for now, I would just say it's just irrevocably changed it. And like, this is one of those like outreaches from that. Like, obviously it changed it when the players are getting paid and they can transfer like they can. But one of the outreaches is that you now need this general manager position just to help operate the program. And like, then I think that has like tentacles that come out of it. It's wild times, man. It's wild times.
Yeah, I mean, I think from like a purist standpoint of like, yeah, I guess it has ruined the experience. But I mean, like looking at all like the ratings from like the college football playoffs, even the tournament this year, like they're killing it. Like people are still very much interested in college sports. So until it becomes when it gets to the point where people are losing interest, like whenever fan bases of like not part of the select 20 teams, like become even more minimalized, yeah, maybe college sports will feel it and maybe college sports will be destroyed. But like for right now, like, I don't know, it's just kind of keep rolling along, I think.
I think the ratings from this weekend, this all chalk Final Four, are going to be fascinating. Like, I'm really, really curious to see, because we're hearing so much about like, oh, no Cinderellas, the death of the Cinderella. That's what keeps it interesting. Well, is it? Is it like, are more people tuning in because George Mason made it to the Final Four, or are they tuning in because the 4 number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four? Like, I kind of think that this will have bigger ratings than years when a Cinderella ends up in the Final Four. Like, I don't think, did Florida Gulf Coast make it to the Final Four one year, or did they just get far?
I think maybe Elite Eight. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Did somebody
Didn't
NC
George
State?
Mason?
Yeah,
Am I wrong about George Mason?
George Mason, I think, made it. Yeah,
Yeah. Or like a Butler. Like,
ECU.
yeah. Like, I'm really curious to see how the ratings compare, because I kind of have this suspicion that we all talk about how we love the Cinderellas, but I don't know if it necessarily gets more people to tune in. I think the name brands get people to tune in, which is ultimately just going to help make all of this situation worse when the haves have more and the have-nots. Anyway, let's see. Scrolling through, people talking about Jaylen Lowe, whether he's a big loss or he's not a big loss. I would say this as a final thought on Jaylen Lowe. It would be better to have him than to not have him. I think he's a really talented player. I think he was in his first year as a starter. I think he was in a difficult situation. I think if you built the team better, and after having a year of experience like that, even though he played a lot as a freshman, I think he would be better as a junior than he was as a sophomore. And I think it would be better to have him than to not. I think he's a player you can build around. And I think Pitt is less for not having him. And I think some fans are just kind of writing it off. Oh, well, good. I'm glad he's gone. Somebody says, oh, they missed the tournament with him. They can miss it without him. And that's all true. But I think it'd be better to have Jaylen Lowe than to not.
Yeah, as a complete trade from Jaylen Lowe to whoever is the starting point guard is next year, I would bet Jalen's going to be more talented. Like, maybe the next point guard has a better fit, or things click better. But straight up on talent, Pitt's going to be downgrading at the point guard position next year, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too. Let's see here. Scrolling in, seeing what else. Everybody's just sort of talking to each other about whether they're going to keep donating to Pitt or not. Let's see. Marv Albert says Pitt should hire Titleman as its GM. I haven't thought about Titleman in a long time. You know Titleman, Jim? He's like a world famous talk show caller. Called into radio talk shows all the time over the years. He used to post on our board all the time. I forgot about Titleman. Hope Titleman's still out there and kicking. Yeah, I hope he's doing well. Let's see. Oh, these guys are mentioning Florida Atlantic. FAU made the Final Four. That's what they're saying.
Okay. I mean, I love the underdog the first weekend. I'm cool with it the second weekend, but Final Four, I want to see the 4 best teams in the country play. So I think this weekend's Final Four is going to kill it, just because not only are they all really good in this year. I think somebody sent us in the group chat. It's like Ken Palm wise, these are 4 of the best teams in the past 20 years.
Yeah,
this is going to be a really good epic Final Four. You have the superstar freshman. Yeah, I mean, I think you have storylines all over the place. Florida's been hot. Auburn's been great all year. Kelvin Sampson's been so close. I think it's compelling, at least.
Yeah. It's interesting too, thinking about NIL and the transfer portal and its impact on all the sports, on football and basketball in particular. And obviously you're going to have star players who go. You'll have that star guy who breaks out at a lower division team, mid-major team, and moves to the higher division. But particularly in football, one of the biggest impacts I think is going to be depth. I think the top teams are going to be able to buy away good players from other teams just to build their depth, like Texas A&M getting, Solomon DeShields, or Colorado getting Deion Hayes, although not so much because Hayes did start for Colorado before he got hurt. But South Carolina getting Bengali Kamara or DeAndre Jules, these, they're finding some of the better and sometimes best players on other teams and buying them away not necessarily to come in to be starters and stars, but just to be depth. And that's going to be, I think, one of the biggest separators between the haves and have-nots is like Ohio State's depth is going to be built on the top players from Pitt or Minnesota or Bowling Green or Utah or wherever else, Washington State or something like that. And it's like, wow, we've got this stud wide receiver at Oregon State. He's going to go be, or we got this stud left guard at Oregon State. He's going to go be a backup at Ohio State. And so if they lose their stud left guard, now here's this really good player ready to step in. And I think that's going to be one of the things that sort of really separates the top echelon. It's not just going to be that they're going to get all the best players to be their stars, but which they're already doing in recruiting, but they're going to be able to fill out their depth a lot better. And that's going to help separate, because we saw last year about depth with Pitt, right? We saw when they lost a guy or lost some guys on the offensive line, they were sunk. Well, I think teams like Texas or Ohio State or whoever else will be able to have ample depth that they've got through the transfer portal to like withstand those injuries and just stay at the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think even like Notre Dame, I thought was like pretty beat up when they made it to the championship game this year, but they made it because they can, like they have the depth to do it. So
yeah,
I mean, and especially now, like if to win a national championship, what you have to get through 15, 16 games, like they're really putting them through it. So like those teams are going to be more incentivized to, okay, like we better load up the roster because we're almost doubling the amount of games we used to play. So it does trickle down in that regard.
Yep. Football side, Joey Dealey says, I know you had a video talking about the scrimmage. Are there any other thoughts on the scrimmage this weekend? If you're talking about the scrimmage that happened this past Saturday, I mean, the offense won the scrimmage. It sounds like they did better overall. There were a lot of turnovers in the first scrimmage, at least 5 interceptions and maybe 1 or 2 fumbles, whereas this past weekend there was only 1 turnover. So a pretty considerable improvement from the offense, and it actually ties into a question. Another comment here. Pitt Wins says, wrong one. Pitt Wins says it would be awesome to see Julian Duggar get a package this season. Just seems like he's too good not to use his talent. And that was the thing out of this scrimmage this past Saturday, is that it seems like the young quarterbacks, Duggar, the redshirt freshman, and Mason Heinchel, the true freshman, made a lot of plays and were really impressive. And those 2 guys seem to be getting some rave reviews out of spring camp, which I think is really interesting. Not necessarily at the point, I'm not bored enough, or I mean, I'm not, going to the point where I'm going to say there's a quarterback competition or quarterback controversy yet. We'll save that for sort of the doldrums of training camp. But it's interesting that Heinchel and Duggar are both playing pretty well. And we're not hearing as many rave reviews about Eli Holstein's performance thus far. Now, we know Holstein can play. We know he's really good. We saw what he could do in those first 7 games or first 5 games last year, really. But it's interesting, and it's good depth. I mean, if nothing else, I think their quarterback room is as good, certainly more athletic than they've been in a long time, and probably as good as they've been in quite some time, even though Duggar and Heinchel are kind of lacking in experience. So I don't know. I'm pretty bullish on this quarterback room, Jim. I don't know if I'd say it's the top position group on the team, but it might be like pretty high, maybe like top 5, maybe top 3, I think.
Yeah, I think they did well, and I know they're really excited about Mason Heinchel, with the true freshman. I think he just kind of, if you've ever watched his highlight tape, it's he didn't play for a very good team, but he made them good himself. But like he fits into this offense and what Kate Bell wants to do. So I think they almost kind of lucked out there, and that he went to a high school that doesn't produce a lot of Division I talent. Pitt was kind of able to find him and kind of hide him. But yeah, and obviously we saw Duggar move around to the bowl game. So the athleticism's there. It's encouraging that the redshirt freshman and the true freshman are both getting good reviews, and so I think they're building the quarterback room the right way. I think we've seen in the past offensive coordinators at Pitt kind of, I don't even know what they would do when it comes to recruiting quarterbacks. Some years they would just take a year off. So I mean, I think they're building it the right way, and even Angelo Rendo was on campus this weekend for the first time. We talked to him on Saturday after his visit, and again, he's another one. You look at his tape, it's like, okay, I see the fit here. Like I know, like he plays in a wide open offense with tempo, and that's what Pitt's asking him to do. So it seems like Kate Bell has he has a certain type for just about every position, and like his actions on the recruiting trail are very noticeable. Like, you know who he's going after, you know the type of player he's going after. So I think he's doing a good job building up the quarterback room. And yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I fully expect like Eli Holstein will definitely be the starter this year. Like, I don't see any type of competition, but it's good to know that they have options behind him.
Nuclear Nadal says, for God's sake, talk about basketball. I mean, we talked about basketball a ton, but since you asked, Joey Dealey says, we got Blake Hinson, Greg Elliott, Nike Sabandi, Nelly Cummings, Jamarius Burton, Ishmael Leggett, Zach Austin. I understand him being frustrated with Capel, but he's done solid in the portal. And yeah, this is something you and I have talked about, Jim. Like, and I've written about it. You've probably written about it too, that like Jeff Capel's history pretty much up until this year with the transfer portal has been pretty good. Like he's done really well with transfers that they brought in. They've done a good job. It's this year was the exception, where Cam Corrin just didn't live up to it. Damian Dunn just didn't live up to it. And, that was at least part of the problem this year, is that they didn't get what they needed out of the transfer portal. But overall, it's been, I mean, there are far more wins than losses, and like by not a small amount. I mean, it was pretty significant how well they've done in the portal compared to the misses, of which, I mean, I would say there's probably just those two guys. I mean, would you call Corrin and Dunn a miss at this point?
I think so, just because of just the way the season unfolded, and that those guys just didn't really contribute the way some of those other guys did. I mean, you talk about Hinson and Burton; those are two first-team All ACC guys. Sabandi and Leggett have won awards. Zach Austin was all defensive team. Like, they have guys like with like real results, like things like tangible, like things you can point to. It's like, look, we got all conference players out of the portal. So I think they have done exceptionally well. And I think I always shout out Mo Gee. I think it started there. I'm like, okay, they got Mo Gee, and like I remember even Capel saying, he's like, we were a little surprised how good he was, but like even then, like, but that just kind of goes to show you, it's like you can kind of take some chances, and if you get the guy in the right situation, like sometimes they kind of run with it. Like the guys from smaller schools, like, this is my big chance, I'm going to run with it. And like Mo Gee did it. I think Nike Sabandi did it. I mean, I think some guys just, Nelly Cummings, like, all right, this is my only chance to play in the ACC. I'm going to have a good season. I have no choice not to. So I think that's kind of the guys you have to live with, guys with a little bit of chip on your shoulder, maybe some of the overlooked guys. I know we mentioned the movie Moneyball earlier, but like you kind of just have to get creative, especially now when you're filling 8, 9, 10 spots.
Yeah. And there are good players out there. Like, there's enough good players out there that you should be able to get what you need. Like, if you're Pitt, you are in the ACC, you're in a high major conference, you've had some success, you've had some prominent individual players, you've got an NIL budget that should allow you to do what you need to do. Like, there are good players out there. You should be able to find a good point guard. You should be able to find a couple of good 3-point shooters. You should be able to find, I don't know. I was going to say something about a center or power forward, but committing to Cam Corrin as the center for next year, if that's the path that they choose to follow, and that to this point it seems like they have, that kind of affects what you do at the 4 and the 5. But I mean, some of those other spots in the wings and the backcourt, I mean, you should be able to get those players. You should have the resources available, and there's enough of players available that you should be able to fill out the roster with talent. I really think so. And people keep saying, I keep seeing things like, oh yeah, well, who's going to come when they know Capel, is on the hot seat, or he's a lame duck or something? Like, that doesn't matter anymore. Like, whether he's on the hot seat or not, nobody's thinking past 1 year. Like, coaches aren't thinking past 1 year. Players aren't thinking past 1 year. It doesn't matter if a coach is on the hot. I really don't think it has any impact at all, because if you're coming here as a transfer, you're not thinking about what is going to happen in 2 years. You're only thinking about that you're going to be here for 1 year, and who knows after that. So I don't think that's like and if your coach does leave, who cares? You go back in the portal, right? And you go get a bigger check,
Yeah, I mean, you don't build a program anymore in college basketball. It's just like it's just a 1 year thing. It just is. So yeah, I don't think anyone cares about the job status of the coach or the future health of the program. It's like, is this the best situation for me right here and now? Okay, I'm in. Sign me up.
Yeah. All right, we'll take one last one from Nuclear. Nadal says it's 7 years since Capel's at Pitt, and he didn't recruit one single good big man. It depends on your definition of a good big man. Like Mogi was pretty good, and he was really tall. I think like you have to look at like they made the tournament and won a couple games with Guillermo Diaz-Graham and Federico. You know, they were the nation's darling as the team that got snubbed on the tournament last year with Guillermo Diaz-Graham and Federico. You need winning players. Like you need guys who can help you win, and those guys help them win. And you know, John Kristofic says John Hughley was a big man, and that's true, but Hughley didn't help them win. He wasn't a winning player. I'm not sure Cam Corrin has helped them win. And so, yeah, you need to get good players, but you need guys who can help you win. And I think they've had some. I think he's recruited some. He hasn't always wanted to play them, as people on the message boards have often talked about. And that's we could have a whole other hour-long episode about that. But, you know, you have to, you know, he's gotten good players. You know, I think he's gotten winning players. He's gotten the kinds of guys who can help you win. It's just they're not here anymore. So
I guess. I mean, like, yeah, like John Hughley was top 100 recruit at the time. Like, I mean, he landed a good big man. I don't know if it helped them do anything. So
yeah, they didn't win with him. They started winning when he wasn't part of it anymore. Well, they didn't start when he wasn't part of it, but the winning that they were like pretty bad in early January that year, and then they got hot over the final like month and a half or 2 months of the season. So there was a span like post Hughley. Well, I guess no, because Hughley wasn't playing for a long time before he left. Actually. But I thought weren't they like, didn't they get off to a really bad start in the ACC that year?
That was more like because I remember like right around Christmas, like they beat North Carolina, they beat Virginia, like they had two big like ACC wins like right off the bat. Then like I think they hit a little bit of like last year they were 1-5. Then they got high.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
maybe I'm thinking of them being pretty rough there. Yeah. Yeah, they lost 2 in a row there, 1 there. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, they were pretty. But anyway, when they removed Hughley, they ended up
started winning. Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, good player, bad player. You need winning players is what it ultimately comes down to. All right. I know we didn't get to a full hour, but we started late and we went a little bit later than we usually do. So I think we'll call it there. Tomorrow we'll have a conversation on the Morning Pit about the GM question, whether Pitt should hire one, although I gave away a lot of my thoughts already here tonight. So, hey, if you watch the live show, you get advanced stuff. We'll have coverage, of course, from training camp or from spring camp tomorrow. Pitt will be practicing in the South Side, practice number 11. Then they'll have their scrimmage, 2 more practices next week, and then the Blue Gold game. Spring camp is almost wrapping up. So we've got a lot to talk about right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com and on the website Panther-Lair.com. Thanks to everybody tuned in tonight. Jim, thanks to you for your time. Apologize for the delay. We'll be back on time next week, so stay tuned for that. All right. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Have a good Wednesday night, and we will catch up with you tomorrow for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.